Hello to all. Here today, in something a little different, we should be just about done our Puerto Rico grind, as you can see. Just shy of making the deadline cut, so let's just wrap things up here, and you can see me hook myself up with this Puerto Rico. Hopefully I don't go deaf. I'm told this thing is a bit loud, but we'll find out. Nice look at the secondaries of the long-barreled 5-inch guns, the 5x54 caliber. Uh-oh, I'm told this is, ouch, quite loud. That's the main battery's fire. So here's our Puerto Rico after the long and horrific grind. So let's get out of here, since apparently after you built her, there's nothing you can do in the dockyard. So let's find a Puerto Rico. Excuse my accent. So here she is. Set her as a primary. The Puerto Rico, she comes pre-equipped with that celebratory American camouflage. As you can see, there's a nice amount of detail onto the model. If I hold down the right mouse button, you can see all the crew members lined up along the deck. It's quite nice. Give me a moment, gonna turn down the music a little more. That should be a comfortable volume now, hopefully. Anyhow, let's get her out and try her out. Now, Harold, you're a nice 10-point commander, but I'm not gonna use you, just gonna borrow my Halsey. Now, my Halsey is my Alaska commander by default. Though, as you can see, he is specialized to the Buffalo. That's temporary, though. He will eventually, most likely, be re-specialized to the Montana when I get to her, currently on the Iowa, so we're getting to that. Anyhow, just a quick brief before we head off and equip the modules. PT, EM, SI, CE, FP, and then back for Expert Loader, Adrenaline Rush, and then High Alert, or Jack of all trades, sorry. Module-wise, let's see, so probably main armaments for slot 1, slot 2, ooh, this is a tough one. Oh, it's in cap? Okay, we're gonna go for burn time because we have super cruiser burn time, don't want any fires. Here we go for accuracy. Now the Puerto Rico, unlike most of the rest of the super cruisers other than the Kronstadt, has battleship dispersion, so we gotta work with that. Minus fire time, or I could minus rudder shift. I'm told the rudder shift is pretty poor, 15.9. What do I run on my Alaska? And what is the Alaska's rudder shift? Let's check on my Alaska. 13 by default. And Alaska's already pretty sluggish, mind you. Do I want to burn longer? I have the improved Jack of all trades, so I'm going to damage control pretty aggressively. Alright, we'll go with steering gears for now. Might regret that later, but hopefully we don't get set on fire too much. Could go further into steering gears or concealment. Concealment right now with a captain without CE is 14.5, so that would bring this to about 12. Alright, we're gonna go CE, just default option. And here, probably main battery mod, right? Alright, so that's that. Let's go to the consumables. So we have an American radar, so let's equip that. And then upgraded heal, upgraded damage control, enable that. So this real question is this slot. Do I want hydro defensive fire? So let's look at my AA ratings. Short range 186, not that impressive for tier 10. Mid range 420, 6 flak puffs, and 114. Pretty middling AA. Kind of just above Japanese, but I don't feel like you're going to be brawling that much. So my default pick is always defensive fire, but there is probably an argument to be made. for just running hydro. Okay, so since we're celebrating our first match, I guess I will use this celebratory camo. Normally I would equip the default camo, which looks like this, as an alternate palette swap of this. I think I like the blue, but for our first match, since we are celebrating our procurement of this super cruiser, let's just mount the default super cruiser stuff. Anything else to worry about? Secondaries. They have a base range of 6.3, interesting. Has potential. And last but not least, our flags. Let's just do my... Where's the American Cruiser collection? Here we go. Alright, we're kitted out. Time to head into battle in our first game in the Puerto Rico. What do I know about this supercruiser? Well, it's an upsized Alaska, except she has battleship dispersion, so much worse accuracy. In exchange for having an extra barrel, slightly longer range, or slightly shorter range, sorry. And inferior reload, I think? All this for being a tier 10. But it is what it is. First match of the day. Oh my goodness, it's Wolverine XXX. If you've watched any of my ranked Des Moines struggles, you'll know this guy is, I don't think too highly of Mr. XXX, let's just leave it at that. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, pure tier 10 matchmaking, no aircraft carrier, so I have a useless consumable, 2 destroyers per side, and 2 small lenses to hunt. I suspect this thing is going to be an okay small lens hunter, thanks to her improved American bounce angles, just like the Alaska. A lot of Bofors mounts here. Some quad Bofors, quad Bofors, quad Bofors. I'm surprised your mid-range aura is not better. Quad Bofors, quad Bofors. A lot of those excellent quad Bofors mounts, but she's lacking any of the 76mm large caliber AA mounts that are found on, say, the Des Moines. So anyhow, 13km detection. You can see I'm fairly large as a vessel. I'm gonna shadow my Shimakaze starting out here on Haven in this domination match. I should have looked at the armor, but I do know I'm an American high tier cruiser, so I must have 27mm extremities. But the real question is, how thick is my middle belt? If my middle belt is the same as the Alaska's 38, then I'm going to be able to bounce a substantial amount of these shells, including the repubs. 431s. But if it's too low caliber, then I might not be able to, and I might still take full pens from, say, the Thunderer and the repub. We'll find out. I'm going to default to high explosive for now. My HE shells are unimpressive, 4300 per shell. 19-second reload after reload module. I'm detected already. Armor piercing, on the other hand, is a fairly good armor piercing shell, same as the Alaska's. 8900 alpha. Getting shelled by, looks like the Kerfers. So remember, I cannot bounce shells off my bow. We do spot Smolensk, so we're going to use expert loader on Halsey to switch. It's a lot of people, so I do want to turn away, but I need to get rid of the spotting. Looks like whatever's in the cap is spotting me. Oh, it did not do my radar check. I'm halfway through the cap in terms of radar. Half their team is shooting at me, so that's fun. Taking a fair bit of a beating, but I cannot turn yet because I don't want to expose my broadside. Permacam with a repub shooting at me. Montana, can you draw some bloody fire? Oh, he's gonna ram me. Force me to show broadside, so I guess I'll execute my full turn now because I don't have a choice. Opening salvo, 1700 with 2 overpens. Not great. I'm gonna use this Montana as a bit of an oversized torpedo bulge. Well, finally undetected. After taking, you know, half my health. No big deal. So you can see that draw distance from the Smolensk. Finally he shows up. Remember, I have Battleship Dispersion, so don't get too hyphy. See if that improved rudder shift can do any work for me. Now Smolensk has 16mm extremities, so I do overmesh right through his plate. Ouch. Alright, my submerged citadel saving me from the thunder a little bit there. Gonna see if I can squeeze off that last salvo. I'm on fire, so my protection is not great. I've let several fires burn. Second follow-up salvo onto the Smolensk was unsuccessful, sadly. I have improved American bounce angles, but he is turning in, so I expect most of this salvo to ricochet and shatter. Or miss. Yep. Ricochet and shatter. Pop my heal. Let's place a mini conqueror on this thunder. That's kiting away now. We did lose a lot of our health though, so didn't exactly get placed into a good position. You can see with the battleship dispersion I do miss a lot. The Thunderer, which has that supercruiser dispersion, able to put 2 overpens onto me. But because I'm no longer the closest one, I'm able to mitigate much of the pressure. He's reversing, but I do manage to get enough shells onto his bow to start a fire. Playing at the edge of my range, he's continuing to reverse. We've already lost a ship. Unfortunately, there's a double fire. Forced to play as budget Yoshino right now. Do know, however, if Yoshino pushed as aggressively as me, they probably would have died, but they also probably would not have been spotted by that Shimakaze. Thanks to its superior concealment. 5 more HE shells. Kind of sad that I have to shoot so much HE right now, but I don't have much of a choice. Wolverine over there in his own Puerto Rico, pushing in. Let's see if we can punish him in turn, and inflict the same kind of damage that we got onto him earlier, or that we got inflicted onto ourselves earlier. He looks nice and flat. Minimap says he also should be nice and flat, so let's see if we can put that supercruiser AP to good use. Takes a torpedo and a flood. You can see that plume of steam coming out of his ship. Unimpressive 5k salvo. Just playing with my butt in. That thunder gets dispatched, so there's that. Probably should have extra loaded onto high explosive since we did see him take that flood and supercruiser burn time. Montana beside me in the meantime appears to have suffered some incredibly large amounts of damage. We switch to high explosive and of course a broadside Des Moines shows up. So Wolverine's pulling himself into a turn at the moment, but it doesn't look like he's going to complete it in time, so I'm going to fire off the high explosive, then switch to armor piercing. That Des Moines is probably going to turn away soon as well. No fire on our HE salvo. Another Puerto Rico behind me. I'm going to switch to that slightly flatter GK. Stay with AP though, because you can see this Des Moines beginning his turn. The team on the other side is fighting competitively. Targeted by 3, so is that all 3 on this side? Could also be the Repub, remember. Oh. Des Moines getting rammed by the GK, so he's not going to complete his turn there. Playing very backline here, in spite of my rather heavily armored supercruiser status. Not targeted at all. Disappointingly though, not landing too many shells. I am gonna bring myself around, but remember, I need to be careful of that Republic. You can see the short range of the Puerto Rico coming into play here. I'm onto my last heal, so I'm gonna hold on to this HP for as long as possible. I'm onto my last dregs now. We are down a significant amount of points from having lost that cap quite early. But Des Moines looks pretty juicy. It's not quite angled enough. There's also a Shimakaze on the edge of my range, but I'm gonna stay with the Des Moines until the last possible second. Disappointing. 5 ricochets. Bit too angled even for my American bounce angles, looks like. Getting shelled from... uh-oh. From the GK. You can see those shells coming out. Gonna pop my heal. Don't want to die. Do take a fairly hefty chunk there. Fortunately, my gun absorbs one of the salvos. Shimakaze telling me to get back. I do agree. Only have one rear gun operational. One of them absorbed some shell fire from the GK, which otherwise might have done some significant damage. Traverse seems sluggish. Can I actually switch to high explosive here? My allied daring is taking a cap, so let's put some fire onto this GK. I am broadsiding the GK and the Repub and Des Moines potentially, so I do have to be careful. Set of fire. Pains me to be firing so much high explosive, but sometimes you do, in spite of having American bounce angles. He's turning out. Switch to armor piercing. Playing much more like a mini Conqueror than anything else, if you ask me, at the moment. But I think it might just be because of our positioning. The Puerto Rico is very sluggish. Traverse, I'm fighting. We've secured a cap advantage now, so... Unfortunately, the Des Moines is turning in, so I'm gonna wait and see if I can drop into concealment. I don't actually have firing gleam, which tells me that the Shimakaze is somewhere hovering. I haven't popped a single radar this game, but... Alright, he reveals his position. You can see that Supercruiser American AP able to inflict some heavy damage onto him. Kind of wish I had my hydroacoustic obviously right now, because I'm pushing toward a Shimakaze who quite clearly has dumped torpedoes. Giving him a fair lead because of the slow nature of Alaska shells. 4 shells. Alright, at least we hit 6 digits on our first match. Popping my radar, see if I can run it, catch out the Shimakaze. No dice, so he's over here. Enemy Puerto Rico. Looks like he's gonna crest the corner and be broadside, so I'm switching to armor piercing immediately. There's the shimmy torps I was dodging earlier. Wolverine pushing in. I have no heals, remember, so I have to use my damage control properly. He's nice and flat for me though, so I get to use that powerful American armor piercing. And even though I have Battleship Dispersion at this range of 9 kilometers, I'm definitely going to get damage. Halsey pops with a confed, so I'm gonna get some improved reload after this salvo. Since I have Jack of all trades for the improved cooldown, you can see that Puerto Rico's rather submerged citadel, protecting Wolverine from his potato play here. So the potato armor added again. Finally we get a kill on our first match. Des Moines attempting something with me. Starts with fire. He's pushed too far out to reverse now, I think. At the very least I can put overpens into his bow. Just gonna hold the corner, I think. No, I'm gonna push him. I still have 20k health. My next radar is in 50 seconds. Torpedoes would be angled here, so I cannot get torpedoed. Looks like he's pushing out. No choice. Based on my allies. Gonna wait. Front gun shows. And there we go. American angles. Next target's liable to be a Shimakaze. He's still over there. Gonna be very careful here. Have high explosive loaded. 2.3 million potential, not bad. Thankfully my team on this side managed to push through and hold onto the cap for long enough to stay in the game, and we, down here, stayed alive long enough for them to reinforce us. Repub dispatches my Hindenburg, the anti-Hindenburg battleship killing the Hindenburg. What a surprise. And it should be a fairly simple game to push in. Shimmy must be almost dead. But my Shimikaze is not really. He's at about 10%. One salvo for Puerto Rico, but a couple salvos for a destroyer. It's like close. But not really hanging on by a thread by any means. So we took some early pressure early on in the match, or heavy pressure early on in the match. But we were able to hang on quite nicely, switching to armor piercing because of the angle. Use the minimap, not your eyes, if you want to get a good judge of angle, especially if you're on vanilla client like me. I know there's Navigator mod to tell you exact angles, but in my opinion, Navigator mod honestly tells you a bit too much information. Okay, so you can see those slow shells, and the way he's turning means I'm gonna overlead the Battleship Dispersion with 12 guns at range, resulting in a fairly ugly spread turning in. Oh, I thought he was shooting at me, but apparently it was for the daring. Is Smolensk in my range? Gonna switch over to Smolensk if you remember that first 10k salvo with just pens. That is, of course, because I penned him all over. Now they're both fairly angled now, but I am a Puerto Rico, also known as a crappy Alaska at tier 10. Oof, that's for me. Take a pretty solid chunk there. Looks like I'm not leading enough on that high-speed Smolensk. But the game does end before I can put any more damage out, so just shy of 150k for our first game. No, I wouldn't say I'm impressed with this gift from Wargaming, but it's certainly not horrible. She's quite sturdy from what I can tell. Confed, fireproof, dreadnought, 146,000 damage, 105 shell hits. Roughly 70% actually penetrated, 5 incaps, 2 kills, 3 fires, 2 citadels, and 1 target hit. We got our reward for our first game, so we'll open that later. Team score wise, top of the scoreboard at 1996. Decent game, but nothing special. In terms of damage taken, mostly AP. You can see my large size as a supercruiser. That's an even larger Alaska, causing me to take significant chunks of damage. Damage wise, most of my damage came from all the AP I fired. I was firing significant amounts of HE, but you can see even with relatively comparable amounts of shells fired, the damage is roughly half. A lot of fire damage this time, so not too shabby of game, but you can see some significant weaknesses. So first off, we're going to open our gift from Wargaming, shall we say. So let's open this. I'm sure I'll get some camos. Thank you. Oh, 300 doubloons, I'll take it. Just gonna collect this while I'm here. And then, before we continue on to our next game, in this double demo, we will take a look at the armor, which is the one thing I didn't go over before I headed in. So, 27mm extremities plating, as I mentioned. It's just all high tier Americans. You assume they have that, just like the Alaska. Then belt is 254, so enough to resist the likes of, say, Moskva and Henri, almost, at maximum range. Upper belt of 30. Alright, so upper belt of 30 is pretty good, same as the Yoshino then, but you can see it's quite an extensive strip. So this strip over here bounces 406s, so that's 16-inch shell, so that's Montana, GK. Also 419s, so that's Conqueror AP. But it does get punched through by Repub 431, 457 Conqueror, so that's Thunderer now. Also Kremlin and Ohio. Upper deck is 38, however, so 38 is thick enough to resist basically all battleship AP. So AP hitting your middle deck will be resisted. This also resists a large amount of HE, so this will resist 203mm HE, 155 IFHE HE. You need to be at least a Hindenburg or a Henry IV to punch through the 38mm. Now IFHE IFHE 203s will actually beat 38mm, but most people with 203s don't take IFHE because it's relatively redundant. This also does mean you're completely vulnerable to audacious dive bombers, which have 41mm of penetration, but you do resist implacable and indomitable level bombers because they only pen 32mm. 38 also means you're completely vulnerable to both midway Tiny Tims and midway HEDBs with their 67 and 63mm penetration respectively. Turret faces are pretty well armored for cruiser turret faces, but all in all, fairly well armored, basically just an up-armored Alaska. Now, I like decorative camos as much as you do, but for the second match, just for the sake of seeing it all, let's use the regular camo. Again, I'm only running heal flag and fire time flags, so very, very simple flag setup. And let's head off into that second battle now, that we're slightly more informed about what kind of tanking we can do. Certainly we did our fair share of tanking that last match, maybe a little more than was ideal to be honest, since I very nearly burned through all 4 heals at the beginning of the match, but it is what it is. So far I'm not disappointed with the Puerto Rico, she's okay. Aha, another former clanmate to bully. Time to die, bodstat guy. But that aside. Pure tier 10s again, so another demonstration, double DD. Oh, it's neutral state. A redditor, okay. Anyone else? So we have a clanmate and a redditor to cunt. Triple Puerto Rico, or Puerto Rico, and a Hindenburg and Sao. No small ones to bully this time, gearing's at 52. So 4 DDs, 4 cruisers, and 3 battleships. I'm missing a ship. 5 cruisers, sorry about that. Spawning on the Atlantic. Sorry about that, just tabbing out to fix my keyboard settings. Neutral state, flaming the Puerto Rico players. Gonna switch back to my HE. People complaining about the shittier Alaska that is Puerto Rico, but you know, it's a tier 10. Anyway, paying attention to the match at hand, I'm shadowing my Shimakaze, but there are not a lot of ships here. You can see the bulkier portion of my fleet has gone south. So I'm going to play rather cautiously. It's very hard for me to maneuver here on the Atlantic. There's really nowhere to go if I decide to turn away, for example, because of this island here. I have to wait till I get past this point of the island, then I can turn north. But then if I need to disengage, well, it's not the easiest position to disengage from. I'm going to slow to 3/4 speed. That was a good angle for me with my American pen, but I can't actually hit him, so I'm not going to switch ammunition. My radar covers most, but not all of the cap. The fact I'm still not spotted means he's in one of these 2 bottom squares. There's a Thunderer. I'm going to accelerate up to my full speed as I try to complete my turn and turn the hell out of here in case he has AP loaded, which he does. Now remember, I don't actually bounce any of his AP except on my deck armor, so if he hits me in the stern, I'm gonna take hits. He did take 2 overpens. It's nice and flat for me. Got to turn my turrets now. I can also tank that Zhao 203mm HE with my 38mm sections. Non-penetrating hit, huh? Slowing down. Oh, that is Puerto Rico HE, not Zhao HE, so that's why I'm taking damage. Even though it's hitting that section, that should be shattering it. Oop, I accidentally beached myself. As I mentioned, clumsy big ship. 3 pens in exchange for that HE fire, though. Gonna repair that fire. Thunderer continuing to shoot AP at me. He should switch to high explosive if the Puerto Rico communicated that he indeed got a hit on me with a fire. Or if the Thunderer alternatively wasn't paying attention. Still spotted. Could be the Zhao, could be the destroyer at this point. It's hard for me to say. Targeted by 3, but no one's shooting at me, so that's one of them's the Zhao. Can't shoot through that rock. One of them's the Thunderer. He squeezed off one last half AP salvo as he started his turn. Stern overpen over there. Popping up to get a proper look. Gonna make my turn now. Yamato is similarly identified that he would like to get the hell out of dodge. Enemy Puerto Rico continuing to lob HE at me. I wish I could hold this gap and shoot at that Zhao, because he's making a turn from the looks of it. Oh, never mind, he's turning out, which means I won't be able to shoot him. Unfortunately, already lost a ship again. He's turning outward. Got the terrain warnings, because I didn't quite get to shoot him while I was locked, so these shells might go astray, yep. Without the lock on, they're unable to crest that mountain properly, but more importantly, we've repositioned to a safer position without exposing ourselves. Now we are broadsiding the Thunderer briefly. Shimikaze torpedoes gliding past me, I assume. Could be Zhao torpedoes as well, to be honest. Gonna pop my radar, take a look, and see what we see. There's the Zhao. I don't think anyone can put pressure on him except maybe the Kremlin, but the Kremlin has to be careful of that GK. So I hope he doesn't do anything too ham. Can't shoot anyone else, so I'm gonna shoot at that Thunderer. And it's a gearing in our gap. Thunderer shells inbound. I'm not quite angled enough, but I did slow down, so most of the shells just glance into my nose. Gonna shoot some shells, see if I can get my rear gun shells through. Overpen only, unfortunately. But I just have to wait. He is gonna crest this. There's no way he can get through without slowing his ship. And as I mentioned, there he is. American bounce angles. He shoots his AP at me, gets a pretty good chunk, but I get a really big chunk out of him. American bounce angles are no joke. I'm loading. Okay, he dies. Very nice. Puerto Rico is in front of me, but so is a... Oh, Puerto Rico's actually cresting that side, huh? Popped his hydro, so he's still probably right where he was. Switch to high explosive, expect to find the gearing before I find Puerto Rico. Could use some intelligence data, but it's kind of stuck here, so I'm gonna hold on to my corner position and just target that Shimikaze in the distance. Remember, Battleship Dispersion, but still worth taking the shot. Okay, he dies anyway. My Grozavoy from Sussit does dispatch him, and I saw the gearing briefly. My radar's up in 30. Just playing it nice and slow. I'm a super cruiser, but a super cruiser is still a cruiser, don't forget that. Puerto Rico's chasing on the other side, but he's even lower than I am. Or much lower than I am, I guess. Again, gonna come forward, start my engine just ever so slightly, and then come to a stop. Radar up in 7. Kind of looking at where I expect the gearing to be. Gonna bring myself up to full speed. He's right on the edge of my radar range. Now he's outside of range, but shooting at me, so he has bloom. Don't know why you would do such a thing. Because you're about to beach. But you know, people do what they want to do. Just like how bad Puerto Rico players don't pay attention to the other Puerto Rico players who are angling or reversing. So he's gonna get a good chunk out of me, quite obviously. But I'm gonna adjust my angle quite a bit more easily than he is able to. Aim right beneath the guns. Not quite the 25,000 salvo he slapped me with, but that's okay. He will die in the next salvo. Now my guns are masked, but I have to stay a little bit angled to avoid dying. Go for the flattest angle possible, which is the stern. Get my 5 pens. Now I'm gonna hopefully disengage before that thunderer over there punishes me for my mistake. You got a pretty good trade out of me. 17,000 plus 25,000, so some quick math says, was that like 42,000 HP out of me in exchange for his 20k or so? Probably less than that. But you can't always get what you want. I'm gonna wait for my guns to load, expert loader, because he's angled. Then try and squeeze off the shots. Nope, no dice. But we are going to take the cap back, regardless of how much damage it took for me to get there. Definitely out-traded me there, but my Smolensk is firing, so I'm going to borrow this Shimikaze smoke. Fix my angle. Take my time to get my cooldowns off. Switch back to armor piercing because of the GK's angle. Even if I want to start a fire, it's more important I get the optimal damage out. Fire at the last second. And I'm going to be exposed now to both of them, so I'm going to fix my angle. 6 full pens and 1 overpen. You can see most of his shells raking my 38mm deck, which resists all of that AP. He's still nice and flat, so my oversized or undersized Montana, that is Puerto Rico, take another pot shot at him. Looks like he's aiming at me. Thunderer has since gone to another target, another 10k out of him. Use my superior rate of fire. Now I can't see him anymore. Okay, it's the Thunderer targeting me. Can't see him anymore, but I can use the minimap to aim. Hopefully if I get another 10k chunk out of him, that'll be a significant enough amount of damage to finish him off. He's fairly low. Nope, my shells hit the wrong part of his ship, and he turned away. Aiming via minimap, he turned in. Gonna make sure I help dispatch that. Okay, he dies. No thanks to me. Much less impressive game than last time. Again, we're hovering very low after a very quick turn of events. Thunder is gonna turn back out. At this range, can Alaska pen? Not sure. Oh, well, we're about to find out. I have one last heal. He's still firing HE. Or AP. Pretty good salvo, right? Even though I have Battleship Dispersion, I still have the improved American pen angles, which does help a lot for putting out damage. And even though my accuracy is inferior, I have 3 extra rifles, which does do a lot toward compensating my shitty dispersion. Another 13k salvo, gonna heal, expecting to take damage. Okay, apparently he's shit at aiming, or I slid behind this rock. Gonna make use of my improved American pen angles. Switch to high explosive temporarily, even though he's turning. You can see because he turned, I got full pens instead of ricochets for the most part. I'm gonna fire my 1 HE salvo. I'm pretty sure he damage controlled, so okay, at this point the HE is just more safe anyway. He's nice and flat, so AP would have been better, but high explosive is more than enough to do the job at this point. We've lost our cap advantage, so we need to go back down and resecure it, but we do have a ship advantage. Much less HP than last time, because of how much damage I took in that Puerto Rico on Puerto Rico exchange. I think it was the... I want to say it was the Sea Dog guy who got me pretty damn good. Enemy Yamato with 3 kills. Neutral state still alive. And he does dispatch my Shimakaze, which is very bad, quite obviously. Taking a long-ranging shot over several mountains. We're probably going to get pointed out here, unfortunately. Unless we can get some kills. So the Smolensk? Someone is working on... The Grozavoy is working on the Yamato. We need to push in. I'm very far back, quite obviously, from kiting. Probably a bit too far back, if I'm being honest, because now I'm fairly out of position and we're down 350 points. The battleship kill will buy some time, but it's probably not quite enough. Ideally, the Smolensk should be the one to go into B, because the Venezia is very vulnerable to Shimakaze, even at full health, because he does not have a hydroacoustic. As you can see, very vulnerable to Shimakaze torpedoes. How many is he going to take? Looks like he took at least one, looks like two now. If he damage controlled too early, he's going to permaflood, and looks like he damage controlled instantly. My short range also coming into play. If I was in Alaska, I'd have an extra half square or so of range. Just shy of 20, I think it's 19.4 on the Alaska. My speed is decent, but it's a supercruiser, and there are faster supercruisers. The Stalingrad, for example, does 26. My repub's also in danger of dying. It might be more important for me to go up and fight at Hindenburg than anything else, since they are going to cap before I get there. Yep, they're going to trade for the repub, which is going to cost us a lot of points. Not sure even if we get 2 kills, if we'll have enough. Gonna need a fairly lucky detonation. Although Grozavoy seems to be working very well on the Z-52, or onto the Hindenburg. Oh, Battleship Dispersion. Those are probably not for me. Taking my time to aim. Hindenburg's now in range, so I'm going to bring my rear turrets into bear. Oh, hi Bugsy. Oh, is he going to fade into concealment? That would be very intelligent. At this point, all I can do is hope that the Z-52 wanders into my radar range. I'll probably put it a bit early. Oh, my radar catches this guy. He's accelerating. My forward salvo will miss. I have a Venezia here though, which is very good. I need the Venezia to run down the Hinden, even though I'm all chatting, because he does 36 knots. I only do 33. Shimakaze gets caught out. And I have a Smolensk. As long as I survive these torps, I'll be fine. I can take maybe one. Let's see if the Hindenburg wants to open up on me after that. Gonna get a little closer before I fire. Oh, he dies. Switch back to high explosive. Now the only vulnerability I have is, in a minute I think we will take over. So I'm the only one who's really vulnerable to dying to shimmy torps from neutral states, but at the same time I want to stay in radar range. He's dead. The Venezia will blast him out of the water even if I don't touch him. Just gonna stay bow into his last known position. I have a Smolens, so I don't need to be the one doing the fire. And we do succeed in charting around a relatively close game in the clumsy Puerto Rico. Courtesy of, well, not ourselves, because we took way too much damage trading with the enemy Puerto Rico. Anyhow though, 132,000 damage, 94 shell hits, again about 60% penetrated fully, 2 kills, 2 fires, 1 assisted capture, 25 secondary hits from that Puerto Rico duel, and 1 spotting ribbon. Team score wise, again, pretty similar score, but this time the base experiences of people who are contributing significantly to the game is quite a bit higher, so the Grozvoy, for example, above me. And get fucked, Bugsy Malone. Report my former clanmate. Okay, just kidding, that's toxic. Damage-wise, mostly on the Thunderer that we were trading with. And again, almost all our damage came from AP, or HE did next to nothing. Really want to stick with the AP if you can afford to do so. Now the Citadel of the Puerto Rico, as you saw when I was trading with the enemy Puerto Rico, is quite hard to access. If I strip off the base layers of armor, you can see here it's basically waterline and kind of underwater, really. So you have to either be fairly distant and get plunging shells, or you just have to have fairly powerful shells and punch straight through the water. Now that when we were trading with that enemy Puerto Rico, I'm not sure when we took that 27,000 salvo if he did pens or if it was a Citadel, but it's very possible it's just raw pen damage since we do have that 8,900 per shell alpha. But yeah, this is the reward ship Puerto Rico. She's not special, but she's not nearly as poor as people seem to be making out, in my opinion. She seems quite fine. Very satisfied with her performance. What did I think about the fire time versus rudder shift? I appreciated being able to maneuver like an Alaska instead of maneuvering like a Montana, so I think I'll stick with that for now. So I like this setup. Definitely could have used Hydro in several of the situations there, especially that Shimakaze torp beat at the end. If that Grozvoy wasn't there, I could well have died to neutral states there, Mr. Smarty Pants Redditor. So there's a lot of carriers about trying to squeeze in their last few directives, however, so it is kind of some push and pull as to what you want to do. So it's kind of up to debate, really up to you what you want. I'm going to stick with defensive fire because I'm fairly used to playing most of my high tier cruisers without Hydro, because I'm from a time before ships like the Worcester existed, which get to just take both. So I used to play all of my Zhaos and Des Moines with defensive fire, because without defensive fire against RTS carriers, you couldn't defend yourself, you're just dead meat. Upgrade wise, I'm very happy with the setup, so main armaments, damage control, of course, if you can afford a radar module. I don't currently have a coupon for a radar module, but I will get to one eventually. You might want to slot the radar module aiming systems for accuracy, steering gears for some improved rudder shift to get back down to Alaska levels, concealment, and main armaments. 13-kilometer concealment is pretty bad. It's basically battleship levels, but I haven't found it to be too punishing, and this Alaska captain seems to work just fine. Halsey, especially with the expert loader, seems particularly important, as well as the improved expert marksman. The turrets are definitely sluggish. Anyhow, we'll wrap up this brief Puerto Rico commentary here. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope this was enlightening. I'm sure it's very possible that not too many of you were able to reach for the Puerto Rico, but honestly, you're not missing out on much. It's just a big, sluggish Alaska with an extra gun. I'll catch you all later, and I hope you enjoy. Cheers.